Right, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm just going to talk about chains and chain maintenance and what to look out for. So I'll go ahead and we'll get into it. Right, so here we have a chain. This just happens to be a Shimano 11 speed chain. So you've got, the chain consists of the parts are the roller in the middle there and the rivet, the connecting rivet that goes through, and obviously the roller in the middle you see, and the inner plates, and then the outer plates on the outside. So that's the main parts of the chain. Now people call it chain stretch, but the chain isn't actually stretching in length. The plates don't stretch on the sides. The plates aren't stretching. When the chain wears, it's the roller in the middle there is wearing, and the pin that goes through, what is going through the centre of the roller, that's what's wearing. So combined the whole length of the chain, each one's wearing, and it just makes it seem as though the chain's stretching in length, but it's because each individual roller and the rivet are wearing out. So therefore the gap between them is increasing because they're wearing. So that's just a quick look at a chain. Right, so now I move on to the actual front chain rings and the rear cassette. Now if you've got a situation where you're riding and you're loading up the chain by obviously climbing a hill or sprinting, as soon as you put any load on it, it starts to skip and it's just slipping. Then if it starts to slip, then more than likely the rear cassette is slipping on the rear cassette, and that normally happens because the load, as you're pedaling, the load is on the front of this, the front chain ring, the load is on the front of it as you're pedaling, and on the rear obviously the load is on the back of the rear cassette. But the chain ring's much larger, so it's got the teeth hooked into the chain right round. It's got a much bigger contact area than it has on the cassette. So the cassette, it normally slips on the cassette on the back. So if it starts to slip, say you put a new chain on, another telltale sign that the sprockets are worn, not matching the chain. If you put a brand new chain on and as soon as you start to ride, you don't even have to put much pressure on the pedals and it starts to jump, slipping, then it's probably the cassette on the back. But also it can be the chain ring at the front. But obviously the chain rings, there's more teeth to the chain ring and they tend to last longer than the rear cassettes. Rear cassettes tend to wear out quicker than your front chain rings will. Obviously you get a lot of dirt on the rear cassette, and that's the factor that's what ruins your chains, is the drive chain be ruined by dirt. So the more dirt that you get on the chain, obviously the oil that's on the chain or whatever lube you're using just collects dirt. So the road dirt, dust, dirt, it acts like grinding paste, so it ruins your chain because it's exposed to the environment. And the cassette, especially in wet conditions, and say if it's a mountain bike or something like that, then it's going to wear them out much quicker. So maintenance is key and prevention's better than cure. So therefore you've got to keep your chain as clean as you can and re-oil it as often as you can. Make sure you re-oil it. Don't re-oil a dirty chain. You've got to clean the chain first thoroughly and then re-lube the chain with the appropriate lube. So dry lube, dry conditions, wet lube for wet conditions. Right, so if you want to know an easy way of knowing if your chain's actually worn out or not, then you can go ahead and get yourself one of these wear indicator tools. They're not expensive, they're easy to use, and it just saves the guesswork if your chain is worn out or not. So the sprocket teeth are cut to fit chains with 1/2 inch between each roller and rivet. So not even a brand new chain will measure exactly 1/2 inch between the rivets, because a smaller amount of wear, you know, is included for movement of the chain. So obviously, like I said, when it wears, it gets greater. I say each rivet and roller is wearing, so therefore combining the whole length of the chain, then it increases that 1/2 inch. So this chain, obviously, the chain tool indicator on the side of it there, don't know if you can make it out or not, there says 0.75 and 1. So that's a percent of 1/2 inch. So I'll start with obviously the 0.75, and if that fits in there, then you know that there's no need to bother about the 1, because it's already worn anyway, so that'll drop straight in. So therefore that chain needs replacing, even though it's not skipping or anything like that, and the bike rides okay. The chain before long it will be, because even on the opposite end of the scale, I'll put it in there and it still fits straight in. So therefore, even though it looks immaculate, it still doesn't mean it's any good. So as I say, so the wear indicator, they normally sort of need replacing when it's 0.5% to 0.75% from the normal 1/2 inch pitch, using this tool. Obviously this one goes 0.75 and 1% of the normal 1/2 inch pitch. So as I say, they're simple to use. Just start off with the lowest first. So if that drops in there, then you know it's worn. It'll drop straight in like that. So therefore that chain will need replacing. So I'll show you on a brand new chain, and then you can see the difference. Right, so here's a new chain. This is brand new chain, and I'll show you on a brand new one. It won't drop in. It will just rest like so. It doesn't drop straight into the gap. That's on the smallest, that's 0.75. So obviously the 1, this is going to be nowhere near dropping in. So that's the difference. They won't drop in, it just sits there like that. That's on a new chain. So obviously as soon as your chain starts to wear and this tool drops in, then it's time to replace the chain. Say if you bought a brand new bike and you're wondering when to change the chain, if you get one of these, and then every so often just try and drop that in, and as soon as it drops in, then change the chain on it, because then it will save your rear cassette from wearing out. So you do a couple of chains. If you keep the chain and the drive train itself immaculate, clean, then you won't be needing to replace the sprocket every time you need to put a chain on it, because you've kept it clean, you've been checking the wear. So it's easier to check the wear with one of these, cheap enough to buy, than it is to keep changing cassettes and chains. So you get away with, if you check it from when it's new, and as soon as this drops in, then change the chain, because the chain is the cheapest component to change. Therefore it's saves you buying a cassette straight away. Then if you leave it too long, then if you put a new chain on then, and you've left it too long, then it will skip anyway, because the new chain won't match up with the worn rear cassette that you've got on there. It won't match up, so the teeth have already worn too badly, and therefore the chain will skip, because the teeth also affect shifting, because the teeth are cut in such a way that it aids shifting performance. So front teeth and the rear cassette, they're cut in a way that it allows for shifting performance. It's great, the best shifting performance, because the teeth are at their best. As soon as they start to wear down and they've worn, then it wears off the pitch, so the chain won't come over, you know, won't change properly. And that applies to the front and the rear. Right guys, that was just a quick look at a chain on your bike. Now, it's prevention's better than cure, so obviously, like I said, keep the chain and the drive train itself clean, and it'll save you hassle in the long run. And also, chains don't normally break, as in they don't just snap for no reason. Obviously, if you've riveted a chain together, then it normally be the connecting rivet that you've put in that lets go when the chain snaps. So obviously it wasn't put in right in the first place, therefore that's why it's broken. So you can't blame the chain, it's just for lack of maintenance, or you've fitted the connecting rivet wrong when you join the chain together if you're putting a new chain on. Or you snag the chain up when you're changing on the gears, they're not correctly set up, or the front derailleur, you obviously get the chain snagged up and it's bent something, like it's bent the plates on the side of the chain, so therefore it starts to skip, and you can't, as soon as you load the chain up, it's skipping because you bent something, i.e. the plates on the side are slightly bent. So like I said, it's easier just to check over, just give it a thorough check over, and it saves the hassle of going out on your bike only to find 20 miles later or so, when you're miles from home, that the chain snapped in two, and you're just left stranded on the side of the road because you can't fix it. So it's better to look after it than it is to stand there looking at the chain in two pieces. So I hope you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Until the next one, ride safe, and I'll see you then.